Hello, this is the Life Tracker. It's a spreadsheet I created to help myself emphasize my positive habits while reducing negative habits, and hopefully it can do the same for you. So to get this set up, first notice that there is a tab for each month. In each month, you will be entering data by the day. Okay, so January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, so on, listed in column A. And the first thing you're going to want to do is up here in row 1 is list out some habits. These can be anything that can be measured in any way. So for me, that's going to be miles ridden on my bike. It's going to be hours of yoga. It's going to be bottles of water. It's going to be number of times that I reach out and call a family member. That's something that I'm not always the best about, so it's in here to remind me to do it. So those are some of my good habits that I want to emphasize. Some of my bad habits might include things like how much am I drinking? Okay, so number of drinks. Could be number of hours spent watching TV. It could be sweets. How many sweets do I have in a day? It could be how much weed do I smoke? It's important to remember that your bad habits, you don't want to just necessarily eliminate them. They do serve a purpose. They help you relax and unwind, enjoy life. It's just that you don't want to do them in excess, and that's what this sheet can kind of help you get eyes on. Okay, so once you have those all listed out, however many you have, hopefully it's not more than the columns provided here, so that you can just go ahead and delete the extra columns. If you need to add columns, you can do that too. You just have to copy over a formula. Okay, you can also play around with formatting. Maybe you want to do a color code. I like to add lines just to kind of separate the types of habits that I'm tracking. But don't go overboard with the formatting because you got to copy this over into all the other months. Should be pretty straightforward though. Just copy your column headers here. Hop over into February, paste them there, delete the extra columns, add your line, and maybe tweak the spacing. Okay, so do that, rinse, wash, repeat for every month. There's also a totals tab at the end that you'll want to do the same thing for. So copy in your habits, delete all the extra columns, you don't need them. Tweak the spacing if you need to. But then the other thing you're going to need to do is there will be charts that will show you a graph of the progression of your habits month by month. So just go ahead and change them. So habit 1, the first one there I had listed was bike. The next one I have is yoga. So just make sure you're doing these in order, and the graphs will automatically pull the numbers that need to be pulled. So again, wash, rinse, repeat. Go through all of these and delete any charts that you don't need. Okay, they say no data because we deleted the columns. Okay, so that's setting up the total sheet. We'll talk more about that later. Let's jump back into January. So in this month, you can start recording on day 1. So on January 1st, let's just say I rode 12 miles on my bike. I did half an hour of yoga. I drank 3 bottles of water, and I called my mom. Okay, so that just counts as 1 time. If I called my mom and then my brother later, I would count that as 2. Let's say I had a couple beers. I watched an hour and a half of TV. I had a Dr. Pepper, and I got high. I smoked some weed 1 time. So there's my numbers for January 1st. Okay, January 2nd, same kind of thing. I'll just put some numbers in here so that we have something to work with for this example. Let's say I didn't ride my bike that day. I can just leave that blank. Let's say I did an hour of yoga. Let's say I drank 4 bottles of water. Didn't call anybody in my family, so I'll leave that blank. Let's say I had 4 drinks, watched half an hour of TV, didn't have any sweets, but I got high twice. Okay, so there it is. So now we have 2 days filled out, and you'll notice this this row across the top is going to give you a running total for the month. Okay, so this is the total bike miles I've ridden so far, total amount of yoga I've done, total bottles of water, and so on. So it totals you up automatically with the formula that's in, that's in each of those cells. For this to be an effective tool, you just need to make sure that you're filling in these numbers every day. So make time for yourself and commit to it if this is something that you really want to do. Personally, I fill it out first thing in the morning, and I put in all my numbers for the previous day. That's what helps me stay on top of it. Okay, so now let's talk about score. You can create a formula to give yourself a score for each day that kind of weighs your positive habits against your negative habits. And the goal here would be to give you some motivation to get a higher score every day by, doing more of the positive stuff and less of the negative stuff. All right, so in general, what this is going to look like, and by the way, the score is going to be listed here in column B. And if you don't want to do the score thing, just highlight column B and delete it. You don't need it. Okay, but if you do, then what you can do is in this first cell, just going to type an equal sign and start building my formula. And in general, it's just going to be all my positive habits added together, and then subtracting all my negative habits. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter, and it gives me a score of 11. Okay, so one thing to look out for is, are any of the numbers in here going to skew your score? Okay, so in this case, 12 miles on the bike, that's a much bigger number than anything else I have here. So I want that to have less influence. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak this formula here. For C3, I'm going to put parentheses around it, and inside the parentheses, I'm going to take C3 and I'm going to divide by 10. And the reason I'm picking 10 is I'm defining that for this example as 10 miles is like a normal length of bike ride for me, okay? So if I do a 10-mile ride, then this part of the formula will give me a score of 1. If I do a 20-mile ride, this divides out to give me a score of 2 for the bike part of this formula. Okay, so it's a way of bringing that higher number in line with the rest of the numbers on your sheet. Okay, you might choose to emphasize things as well. Okay, so like my family, for example, maybe I say that's extra important, so I'm going to add a multiplier of 2 and give that a little bit more weight. Let's just also say I'm really trying to avoid sweets, so I'm just going to add a multiplier of 2 to this as well. Your multiplier could be 2, could be 4, whatever the situation calls for. Okay, but in this case, let's just see what this does to the formula. Okay, so now it gives me a number of 0.2. In general, what I try to do is make it so all my positive stuff and all my negative stuff on a typical day might cancel out and give me something close to 0. All right, so this could be a negative number. That doesn't really matter. Don't get hung up on that. And keep in mind that this number by itself really doesn't mean anything until you start making comparisons day by day. Okay, so on the next day, I got a score of negative 1.5. Okay, so I guess I didn't do as well on that day as I did on the first. All right, so this is how you can kind of start to keep track of your big picture with this formula. Up here in the upper left, you've got your average for the month. Okay, now one thing to keep in mind is you could copy and paste this score all the way down. All right, but that's going to wreck your monthly average because these are all zeros until you fill them in. So let's take those back out. I like to do day by day. So once I fill out all my numbers for the third, I will copy the formula down and then calculate the score for that day. All right, and then just do it as I go. Then to copy it over into the next month, just copy the formula from the first or any of the cells that have the formula, hop over to February, pop it in, and you can see here's the formula all ready to go in February. But again, I'm not going to do that until I get to February. So for this example, I'll take it out. So now let's talk about the totals sheet. I went ahead and put in some fake data all the way up through partway through August. So some things to be aware of. Most of this you don't need to do anything with. These numbers are all pulled from the individual month sheets. Okay, so for example, this is all the sweets you ate in April. This is the number of drinks you had in March. This is the number of miles you rode on your bike in January. And these are your average scores for each month. Okay, so you really don't need to do anything with them. It's nice to see them side by side, but you know, that's what these charts are for, is to see how everything is trending. Okay, so here is showing a score trending up, bike miles trending up. Everything falls off to 0 after you know, the times that, you know, haven't been recorded yet. So just be aware of that. But you can have a visual way of monitoring, you know, how your habits are trending. You know, ideally you would see your bad habits trending down and your good habits trending up. But they're all interrelated, so things are going to change. But this gives you a way to visualize. You might also be interested in seeing your year-to-date numbers. This is just total numbers for the whole year so far. And then daily average for the year so far. So those are some interesting numbers that you can also look at here on the total sheet. So that's really it. I hope you're able to copy this sheet and tweak it and make it your own and use it in a way that can drive some positive outcomes for you. That's really what this is for. Be careful to be kind with yourself as you use this. It's really easy to go down a rabbit hole and get sucked into the numbers and set unrealistic goals for yourself. You know, we all want to ratchet our positive habits to infinity while completely eliminating the negative habits. That's not realistic for you as a person. So keep that in mind. Use this as a tool, but don't make it a religion or anything like that. So best of luck to you. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, there are more details on the instructions tab, and feel free to leave a comment or email me if you have any specific questions about the sheet. Good luck.